For over 1,000 years, European farmers grew a root so sweet, the Germans named it sugar root. The Dutch named it sugar root. The Danish named it sugar root. 3 countries, 3 languages, same name. That is not a coincidence. Roman emperors demanded it as tribute. Medieval monks cultivated it behind monastery walls. King Henry VIII ate it at royal feasts. And the master cooks of King Richard II published recipes for it in 1390. Then something happened. Around the 1700s, a new vegetable arrived from South America. The potato, bigger, easier, faster, and within 1 generation, this 1,000-year-old sugar root vanished from every farm, from every cookbook, from every memory. Nobody has planted it in 300 years. And the question that no one is asking is not what replaced it. The question is, why did we let the most naturally sweet root vegetable in European history disappear without a fight? The plant is called Skirret, botanical name, Siam cicerum. It comes from the same family as carrots and parsnips, the Apiaceae family. But here's where things get interesting. Skirret did not originate in Europe. It came from China. Thousands of years ago, Chinese farmers were already growing this root as a staple crop. They knew what it could do. They knew how sweet it was. They knew it would grow back every single year without replanting. Because Skirret is a perennial, you plant it once, it comes back forever. Let that sink in for a moment. Every vegetable you grow right now is an annual. You plant it, you harvest it, you start over every single season. Buying new seeds, preparing new soil, starting from zero. Every year, Skirret does not work like that. You plant it one time, and it produces food year after year after year. Without replanting, without new seeds, without starting over. The root system stays alive underground. It multiplies, it spreads. And every harvest, there is more than the year before. The Chinese knew this. And eventually, through ancient trade routes, this plant traveled westward, into Persia, into the Roman Empire. And that is where the first famous person in history fell in love with it. Emperor Tiberius of Rome. Pliny the Elder, one of the most respected writers of the ancient world, documented it himself. He wrote that Tiberius demanded a fixed supply of Skirret every year from the Rhine provinces in Germany. The emperor of the most powerful civilization on earth wanted this root so badly that he had it shipped from a different country. As tribute, that is not a minor footnote. That tells you everything about what this plant was worth to the people who actually grew it. After Rome fell, Skirret did not disappear. It moved into the monastery gardens. Now, if you study medieval food history, you will notice something fascinating. The monastery gardens of Europe were not random. Every single plant grown behind those walls was there for a reason. Monks were the scientists of their era, the researchers, the record keepers. And they chose Skirret. Hildegard von Bingen, a 12th century Benedictine abbess who is still respected in botanical medicine to this day, wrote about Skirret in her book, Physica. She documented its medicinal properties. She understood that this was more than just food. But here's the part that really matters. Before sugarcane arrived in Europe, there was no cheap sweetener. Honey was expensive. Sugar was a luxury that only royalty could afford. It was literally traded like a spice. So what did ordinary Europeans use for sweetness in their food? Skirret. This root was Europe's primary source of natural sweetness for centuries. The Germans called it Zuckerrüsel, sugar root. The Dutch called it Suikerwurtel, sugar root. When 3 separate cultures named the same plant after sugar, you know it delivered something extraordinary. And the medieval cooks knew exactly what to do with it. In 1390, a cookbook called the Faume of Cury was compiled by the master cooks of King Richard II of England. Inside that book are 2 recipes for fritters made with Skirret, fried in oil, fried in butter, served at the royal table. This was not peasant food. This was royal food. By the time Henry VIII sat on the English throne, Skirret was one of the most valued root vegetables in Tudor cuisine. His kitchens prepared it roasted, boiled, creamed, baked into pies. It appeared in cookbooks alongside carrots and parsnips as an essential crop, and its taste was described as something unique. Sweeter than parsnip, softer than carrot, with a slight hint of pepper at the finish, a combination that no other root vegetable in Europe could match. For 1,000 years, from Roman emperors to English kings, Skirret was grown, cooked, celebrated, and loved, and then one vegetable showed up and erased all of it. In the 1500s, Spanish explorers brought the potato back from South America, but Europeans were suspicious. They did not trust it. Some believed it was poisonous. Others thought it caused leprosy. For nearly 200 years, the potato sat in the background, rejected. Then something shifted. By the late 1600s and early 1700s, European governments began pushing the potato hard. And there was a simple reason. Potatoes produce more calories per acre than any root vegetable in history, more than turnips, more than parsnips, and potatoes are easy, dead easy. You chop one up, bury the pieces, wait, and you get a massive yield from soil that would barely grow anything else. You do not need great land. You do not need monastery walls. You do not need knowledge passed down through generations. For governments trying to feed growing populations, the potato was a miracle. But here is what they do not tell you. The potato is an annual. You harvest it. The plant dies. You start over every season. You need new seed potatoes every year. You need fresh labor every spring. And your soil gets exhausted because potatoes are heavy feeders. They drain the ground. Skirret is the opposite. Plant once, harvest forever. The roots regenerate underground. The plant multiplies on its own. And because it is a perennial, it actually builds soil health over time instead of destroying it. The root system stabilizes the ground, feeds the microbes, creates organic matter year after year. But nobody was thinking about that in the 1700s. They were thinking about one thing: calories, fast, cheap. Now, the potato won on volume, and Skirret lost on visibility. By the 1800s, Skirret had disappeared from every major cookbook in Europe. No seed catalogs listed it. No farmers' markets sold it. No grandmothers passed down recipes for it. Within 1 century, 1,000 years of cultivation was erased. And here is the part that should bother you. It was not erased because Skirret failed. It was erased because the potato was louder, bigger, more obvious. The potato demanded nothing from you except dirt and patience. Skirret asked for something more: knowledge, tradition, a connection to the land that went deeper than one season. And we chose the easy path every time. Let me tell you exactly what disappeared when Skirret vanished from European agriculture. First, nutrition. Skirret roots contain 16% dry matter. 65% of that is sucrose, natural sugar, not processed, not refined, not stripped and bleached in a factory. Pure plant sugar, the kind your body actually knows what to do with. On top of that, Skirret is rich in dietary fiber, vitamin C, B vitamins, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. Compare that to a potato. The potato gives you starch, carbohydrates, energy, yes, but the nutrient density of Skirret makes a potato look empty by comparison. Second, perennial food production. This is the one that should keep every gardener awake at night. We replaced a plant one's harvest forever crop with a plant every single year crop. We traded sustainability for convenience. And now, 300 years later, our soil is so depleted that vegetables have lost up to 80% of their nutrient content since 1950. That is not a coincidence. When you rip plants out of the ground every year and start over, you are mining the soil, taking without giving back. Perennial roots like Skirret do the opposite. They feed the soil, they build it, they create a living underground system that gets stronger every year. Third, sweetness without sugar. Before Skirret disappeared, ordinary Europeans had a natural sweetener growing in their gardens, free, renewable, healthy. When Skirret vanished, that sweetness was replaced by imported sugarcane, processed in factories, sold at high prices, connected to slavery and exploitation. We replaced a free, perennial, self-renewing source of sweetness with one of the most destructive industries in human history, and nobody talks about it. Fourth, seed independence. Skirret multiplies by root division. You harvest some roots, leave others in the ground, they grow back and multiply. You never need to buy seeds again. You never need a seed company. You never need a catalog or a subscription or a yearly purchase. The potato economy works differently. You need seed potatoes every year from someone, and that someone builds a business on your dependency. Skirret was independence. The potato was a subscription, and we signed up without reading the terms. Now here is the part of this story that changes everything. Skirret is not extinct. It is rare. It is forgotten. It is nearly impossible to find at any garden center or supermarket on Earth, but it still exists in the margins. in the collections of botanical preservationists, in the experimental seed vaults of people who refused to let it die. And it is still exactly what it was 1,000 years ago. Still perennial, still sweet, still nutritious, still requiring zero replanting, still multiplying underground without being asked. Growing skirret is not complicated. It thrives in full sun, it tolerates shade, it handles heavy soil, and even swampy conditions that would kill a potato. It is extremely resistant to cold. Pests and diseases rarely touch it. It grows about 1 meter high with white umbrella flowers that pollinators love. You can start from seed or from root divisions. Plant them 30 centimeters apart in rich, deep soil. Water well in the first season and then step back, because skirret does the rest. By year 2, you are harvesting clusters of sweet, finger-thick roots that taste like a cross between parsnip and carrot, with a natural sweetness that nothing in your garden can match. And the plant is already growing new roots for next year, without you doing a single thing. Year 3, the clump has doubled. Year 4, you are dividing roots and planting them elsewhere. Year 5, you have a permanent food source that requires zero annual input, zero seed purchase, zero replanting. A medieval monk would recognize your garden, and he would wonder why it took you so long. We are living in a moment where the failures of annual agriculture are impossible to ignore. Soil nutrient depletion, water table collapse, fertilizer dependency, seed monopolies, supply chain vulnerability. Every single problem in modern food production traces back to one mistake. We built our entire system on plants that die every year and must be replaced. Perennial crops like skirret are not a romantic return to the past. They are the future. Scientists at research institutions around the world are now working on perennial versions of wheat, rice, and corn. They call it the perennial grain revolution. It is one of the most important agricultural movements of the 21st century. But skirret does not need to be engineered. It does not need a research team. It does not need billions in funding. It has been perennial for thousands of years. It is ready right now, waiting for someone to plant it. And it grows in almost every climate zone in the Northern Hemisphere, from Scandinavia to the Mediterranean, from the Pacific Northwest to the American Midwest. Anywhere potatoes grow, skirret grows, often better. The question was never whether skirret works. The question is why, after 300 years, nobody told you about it. This is the story of skirret, a root that was sweet enough for emperors, good enough for kings, trusted enough for monks, and productive enough to feed families without ever being replanted. And we forgot it, because a bigger, dumber, easier vegetable came along, and we stopped paying attention. But here's the thing about perennials. They wait. Skirret has been sitting underground for 300 years, in forgotten gardens, in abandoned monastery grounds, in the soil of places where people once grew food with intention and knowledge and care. It did not go extinct. It went quiet, and it is still there. If you grow vegetables, you need to know about this plant. If you care about soil health, you need to know about this plant. If you believe that the food system is broken and needs a different answer, this plant is that answer. Search for skirret seeds. Find a supplier, plant them, and become one of the first people in 300 years to grow the sugar root that fed Europe for 1,000. Share this video with anyone who grows food, because they deserve to know what was taken from us, and what we can still take back. If you are new here, subscribe. We find the plants, the methods, and the knowledge that the modern world forgot, or buried, or replaced with something cheaper. Because the answers are not in the future. They are in the ground where they have always been.